Welcome to LMR Live, an innovative talk show produced by University of Mississippi music students and hosted by yours truly, Nancy Maria Balach, UM professor and singer. We are so excited you are here with us to kick off season 6 of LMR Live. Can you believe? Can you believe? I really hope that our online viewers enjoyed the little smidgen of duly noted you got to hear, because our in-house studio audience really enjoyed them. A big shout out to that band and for coming on board and being part of the LMR Live experience. I want to kick things off by introducing the students. You're not going to get to see them because they're working their posts, but I want you to know I don't do this alone. This is a collaborative effort where these students are honing skills. They're going to make them more marketable in the 21st century world of music. So who are they? We have Jesse Gibbons, who is the music director of Duly Noted. We have Ava Street, who is our live stream technician. We have Haley Tyrell, who is our sound technician. Carly Wildman, who is our lead camera operator. And we have Caitlin Richardson, who is our, production coordinator, visual coordinator. She's doing many things. So an amazing team of students who are part of this. This season, I'm dedicating it to someone truly special. I'm dedicating this season to a man who made an impression on everyone he came in contact with, Mr. Overton Shellmeyer. Ovi was an accomplished architect, arts appreciator, storyteller, and man. And I want to also recognize his incredible wife, who is here this evening. She is a person I aspire to be when I grow up, and she is a huge supporter of LMR. I thank you for all that you do and your legacy, and I want to dedicate this season to Ovi Shellmeyer. We remain committed to you. You are important in this experience. This experience is interactive. It is free. We want to hear from you. So we expect you to participate, whether that is tweeting at LiveMuseRes, posting on the Facebook page, whatever it may be, get those questions in. And what are we doing? What are we doing with LMR Live? We are doing education and entertainment. And what do I call it? Edutainment. Edutainment with the living music resource. The music revolution continues. All right, I'm going to be serious now. Collaboration and community are two words that I love. LMR is focused on them through our many projects dedicated to education, outreach, and entertainment. Another entity on this campus that is also dedicated to those ideals is the Sarah Isom Center. And this month, they have a month-long celebration of Sarah Fest that is a privilege for us to be part of. And I just want to say thank you to the Sarah Isom Center, to Teresa Starkey, to Kevin Cozart, and everyone on their staff for being incredible collaborators and creating a community of understanding, a community that celebrates music and celebrates humanity. Another applause. So LMR launched in 2013, and in 5 short years, here's a few stats. We've done 19 talk shows, showcasing 4 of our own faculty members, like Amanda Johnson, who's in the house. Yes, woo-hoo! And Bruce Levingston, who's in the house. Woo-hoo! We have brought 16 different artists to our campus for full productions, concerts, master classes. We've commissioned new works. We've taken our students to New York City. We've collaborated with many entities on campus and off campus. We've won some awards, and we've collaborated with public school children. We are on the move. The thing I want to make sure is clear, LMR is a creating entity. We're not just producing other people's works. We are creating work, and I am so glad you are part of this revolution. So looking back over the episodes and thinking about today, one person just kept popping into mind for many reasons. Brady Bramlett, who is an Ole Miss alum, was an Ole Miss baseball pitcher, had him in class, and he's also been a friend to LMR. We did an LMR Live with him, we did a concert, and in the spring he came to me with an idea, and it was the same time that Teresa Starkey came to me with an idea about doing this LMR Live, and it sort of led to what we're doing tonight. So help me welcome Brady Bramlett so we can talk about these things in detail. Brady!
Hello.
So you are no stranger to LMR Live. You've been in that chair.
That's right.
And we look exactly the same as we did several years ago.
Exactly.
Maybe a little different. It was a really amazing experience getting to do that live with you because so many people don't realize that music and sports have so much in common. And it really was a fabulous platform to discuss those things. Did you feel that?
I mean, it was a chance for me, too, to, one, share my love for the sport that I grew up playing, but also for the art of singing that I also grew up doing with my mother. And so it was a chance for me to share my story and to really engage everybody and share that aspect of me, which, I mean, a lot of people only knew me from the baseball field. So that was...
And I always tell you, the joke in my house is I always think of him as a singer and not an athlete, although singers are athletes. And it's sort of the joke. You know, he does play baseball. That's like, yeah, well, but he sings. You know, we also had the concert, and many of the people that are here tonight were also at that concert where you just sang so beautifully. This past spring, you came and sought me out. Will you share with everybody what you sort of brought to the table?
Sure. So if you didn't know, obviously I'm finished with my baseball career. I'm now working with the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation, and I was really thinking about how, one, can I stay involved with music even more, continue to perform, one, but also, I mean, to really make a difference and to impact the music department as it impacted me in so many ways. And my philosophy is if I'm going to do something, if I go through a program or come through a school or impact a person, I want to make a difference, leave it better than I found it. So thinking about that, came to you in the spring, and I asked if there's any way possible that I could get involved with LMR in all aspects.
And obviously, it was a no-brainer because Brady is amazing. And you know, one of the gifts of getting to work at this university is being with students when they first come in and they're unsure where they're going to go. Not that you were unsure at the point where I was with you, but because in the classroom, but you get to be this little part of their journey. And then when they're out and they're in the world, and then there's ways that you start working as colleagues and cohorts, and it's fantastic. So we worked out a few things, and we have a big shift in LMR. I'm no longer steering the ship solo, although I've never been fully solo because I got the team, but I'm shifting to CEO, Artistic Director, and Brady Bramlett is now LMR's Executive Managing Director. And what's exciting is we're very similar in how we look at things. In what you just said, you want to leave someplace better than you found it. And we share that mentality. And I feel that our skill sets are going to beautifully enhance one another. So I publicly welcome you and thank you for being part of it. So should we take a moment and look back at some of the episodes? Or are you going to make me shift over there? What are you going to do?
I think we should look back. I mean, 20 episodes. I mean, I've kind of forgotten what all we did.
Yeah?
Okay. So many.
Okay.
So definitely, I think we should take a look at some old episodes, and then I think it's time for a little switcheroo.
Okay.
So.
I'm nervous. All right. Here we go.
All right, so it is my honor and my privilege to welcome you to the 20th episode of LMR Live with our featured guest, Nancy Maria Balach.
Switch your seats. Okay. I gotta cross my ankles the other way. All right. Okay.
Now I have the cards,
All right.
and I have the power. When in doubt, laugh and applause. It's your number one two golden rules as your audience. So we've got a packed show. A lot of things you don't know about, which is a type A's nightmare.
It is a type A's nightmare.
So we're going to not waste any time, and we're going to dive in. So the beauty of this episode is that everybody knows you as the professor, the mom, the creator of LMR, but they really don't truly know your story. So we're going to go from the beginning.
Okay.
And really talk about your childhood and where you grew up and how you truly developed that love for music at that young age.
Yeah, I don't ever remember life without music. My parents who are here are not musically inclined, which I'm grateful for, but they are music advocates, and that's what we need more of. I think there's this misconception that we teach children music so they're going to become musicians, and that's not the case. Just because I learned to cook doesn't mean I think I'm going to be a chef. We know that's not going to happen. But I'm so appreciative that I grew up in a household where the arts were held up in high praise, and it was just a normal part of everyday life. I'm a product of a fantastic public school music program. I'll never forget second grade, Mrs. Kasanchich. We had fun in music, but it was very clear that we were learning, and there was this ideal that we were reaching for, and it just filled me with excitement. Fifth grade, first show with that public school system, full orchestra, no ringers, all students on every instrument, whether it was double bass, whether it was piccolo, whatever it was. Got to be in my first opera in 8th grade with Opera Theater of Pittsburgh. And my parents also, I'll praise them, I always had these crazy ideas. I always would look for things in the paper. This was before you could look things up on the internet. And I would call random places and I'd say, I want to try out for this, I want to do this, I want to do that. And they're always like, okay. And it was always this dynamic of anything's possible if you try your best, and you do. And I'm really grateful for that because in most cases, anything is possible. When I say anything, I don't mean I have lemons and I'm going to make a great lemon meringue pie. I might have to be okay with lemonade that has no sweetener, but I'm going to make do with what I got, right? Anything's possible. I can create something. And always food analogies. I don't know what that is. So that was my first experience, and that opera was actually professional. And got to tour with Hansel and Gretel, got to be a gingerbread child. And one of my huge mentors, Mildred Miller Posvar, started that company, Metropolitan mezzo-soprano, known for her pants roles, Carabino and such. She, from when I was an 8th grader, she was a mentor for me. So I was also lucky to just be around these people that really knew what they were doing. And that was just the norm. And I wish that could be for everyone. I think it can. I think in any community, we have people who are great at things, and we need to make sure that we're creating opportunities for those people to do what they do. And Oxford is one of those places, don't you think? Yes, am I alone? Oxford is. I grew up a Yinzer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm now a Yaller in Oxford, Mississippi, and I love it because there's that same mentality here, and we need to make a point of it. So I was a little all over the map. Did I answer the question?
That's perfect, yes.
Yeah, and then high school, probably the most formative experience was auditioning for Robert Page. I don't know if anyone in here knows this name. All the choir folks, the choral arrangement of Make Our Garden Grow that you sing is arranged by Robert Page. And amazing man, he's no longer with us, but auditioning for him in Carnegie Music Hall in Pittsburgh, not the one in New York, but Carnegie Hall in Pittsburgh, and singing Caro Mio Ben. And I was
Which every undergrad student
we
in
could
America
do a sing-along right now, right?
Caro Mio Ben.
And I was so nervous, but I walked out on this huge stage, and there's just one man, and this is before all the reality shows where people are auditioning, so I had never seen this before. and sang, and he paid me a compliment. And little did I know, I mean, he did not pay compliments very easily. I could tell you lots of other stories where he didn't pay compliments, but he paid a compliment, and it was like, wow, I've worked on something and it's being recognized. It was a sense of accomplishment, which again, I think is why we do music or arts with children, that there's a sense of working towards something, a process, and not that it's about always that final performance, but it was like, wow. And I thought, I want to do this. And then after the first rehearsal with him, I was like, if I can be around people that are this charismatic and intelligent and dynamic, sign me up. So
That's awesome.
thanks.
And so through high school, and correct me if I'm wrong, you began your love for musical theater.
Oh,
you
yeah.
had a tough choice when you began auditioning for college.
Yeah.
The choice between opera and musical theater. What was that process like, and ultimately, how did you make that decision to follow your path?
It's a hard decision because for most of us, we know more about our exposure to musical theater potentially than classical music and opera. But I was torn between. Every school I auditioned for both programs, for music and musical theater. Didn't get in everywhere, but when I came down to my final decision, I wanted to be a music major because I felt like the singing was the thing that needed the most skill refinement, and I was the best at that. Looking at the three, you have singing, dancing, and acting. Right? If you go into musical theater, the numero uno is going to be acting first. Then it's going to be either singing and dancing in some pairing. In a music program, it's always the music first. And I decided that needed the most refinement. And then I chose a music school that was going to let me take dance classes, expect me to take dance classes every semester, and I would have piano lessons and acting classes. So I chose Carnegie Mellon for that reason. We had 4 years of dance and 3 years of straight acting, in addition to opera workshop.
And so, I mean, that's a very unusual structure for undergrad curriculum. So, I mean, was that a big part in why you chose?
I absolutely made the right choice with that school in the sense that I'm not a real black and white person. I'm really like all about the gray. And it's, at that school, I joked about this earlier today, on the bulletin board, there was just a folder for exceptions to any rule, just on the wall. And I can't tell you how many exception forms I filled. And it was like expected that you were supposed to look at the program and figure out if this class doesn't apply to you, what do you want to take in place of it? Or if you want to take more hours, it was expected that you were supposed to look for exceptions. And that was just the norm. And I'm grateful for the fact that I got to expand in that way, and I hope that I'm bringing some of that mentality here. Yes, we have rules to follow, and yes, there are things you have to do, but, and I tell this to my students all the time, in the classroom or one-on-one in the studio, I promise I'll never give you busy work, and in return I ask that whatever you do for me, you're finding a purpose of how it serves you, or you finagle it in some way that you find that, or else you're just checking it off the list, and there's no point to it. So, anyways.
Yeah, and I've been in one of her classes, and let me tell you, it's not busy work. You are working, and you're truly learning. And I think that goes to show, I mean, your undergrad experience is due to that reaches into your philosophy of teaching and working.
When Andrew Lippa was here, he shared with everyone that the relationships you form in your undergrad are so important, that they're going to be with you for the rest of your life. And that's true for us here. These relationships, whether they're with your peers, whether they're with a staff member, whether they're with a professor, they're going to carry through. And it's going to be the most obscure things you end up referencing all the time in your daily work life. It's not necessarily that class that you stressed and sweated over and lost sleep. It's going to be that, I don't know, internship you did, or that one little trip you took, or that speech you gave, that you just look back upon over and over again. Yeah.
And don't forget, you as the audience members here in the house and watching live, to submit any questions you have for Nancy Maria on Twitter @LiveMuseResource. And don't forget, in the house too, there's a table over here set up to write down some questions if you have any. And so, with that,
we have a lot of questions.
We have our first
I cannot
question of the
believe
night.
how many questions came
First
in.
of many.
Thank you.
So this is from Caden, who
Okay.
is an undergraduate here at Ole Miss. He's not a music major, and he asked you.
Hayden's here.
Where's he at?
Hey,
there he
Candace.
is. He asked, did you ever consider a career other than music or have doubts about your future in the field?
I think you always have doubts. I never imagined myself, though, anywhere else but some sphere realm of the performing arts. In my undergrad, I started a master's in arts management. I started one. You could be a senior if you were in good standing and a first-year grad at the same time. Did my internship and everything, but then it was still at that moment, no, I want to perform. So that was the focus. My husband tells me that someday we will retire, but there's this little part of me that always wanted to be an otolaryngologist. So that's like my hidden inner ego, but there's not enough time and I don't have enough brain space to learn all that. But that would have been the only other option. I think I have this infatuation with people who are ENTs. I think they're really cool. Yeah. Awesome. Well, they're studying the voice. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah. And another question, this is from Lawson, who is also an undergraduate, non-music major, but he's in the choir.
He is.
He asks, do you feel that there is a defining moment or realization in which you knew that you loved music and that's what you want to pursue? Yeah. What was that moment like?
It was that moment, I really would say it was that moment on the stage auditioning for Robert Page. It really was. It was also that experience with Opera Theater of Pittsburgh. I mean, they paid me and I got to miss some school. I was like, yeah, this is great. But it's also, I mean, people don't believe me when I say this, but I'm really actually very socially awkward. And I really was. I was the kid that, in elementary school, would walk the perimeter of the playground, and I'd be talking to the teachers. And diving in, and I think music for me also being in shows, the structure of being directed where to go and the structure of being cast in a way, all of that made me really calm and empowered me in a way, and I think has helped me become not socially awkward. Does anyone believe me? Y'all think I'm lying, and I'm really not.
Yeah, we know you're lying. So you mentioned the audition process, and so now let's make the jump from the realm of academia, performing on campuses and in school, to that full-time gig as a full-time performing artist. What was that process like? One, I mean, did you make a big move from city to city?
It was mentors. It was, again, Robert Page. I was finishing up my undergrad and he said, there's a conductor I'd like you to sing for. And he's considering you for I would like him to consider you for Beethoven's Egmont, Clara's 2 songs. And I worked my tail off, and he arranged for the audition. And that's really how it works in the orchestral symphonic world. It comes down to connections in that sense. They don't have open calls to really go and try out. And through that, it led to so many other gigs. So I remember being on the phone negotiating the contract, which I was like, they could have paid me $10 and I would have been there. But they said the amount, and I was like, and I'm like, well, let me think. Okay, and that was great. Then Mildred Miller-Posvar, who I first met as an 8th grader. I then auditioned for her as an adult and worked with her as a young artist, touring around elementary schools, doing outreach. And so I really was lucky from undergrad to that next step that I was gigging and working. Then I decided it's time for a change for professional and personal reasons that I will not go into. And I decided I'm moving to New York City. I'm studying at the Manhattan School of Music. That's it. And I applied to one school and knew I wanted Edith Burrs as my teacher, and it somehow came true. And when I moved to New York, I went to my apartment sight unseen, which is hard to imagine by today's standards, right? Because you can get on and look inside the apartment. I was moving in with a friend who I knew from undergrad relationships, and she said, well, you can live with me. And I was like, okay. So literally just packed up the truck, moved in, and I was like, this'll do. I mean, I'm here to work. I'm not here. And it was a nice apartment, but I think by today's standards, correct me if I'm wrong, most students, you spend a lot more time looking where you were going to live, right? Yeah. Not that you shouldn't, but it was just a different time, I suppose. And then did my master's, because then I decided to do that because I wanted to be in the city. And I'm a very practical person, even though creative, and I thought, what's the safest way I can move to New York City? Be in school. I have an instant community. I can audition whenever I want. And my master's program was great. I had, in my first year, I had to stop school a month early to go off to be with Opera Theater of St. Louis, and they let me take all of my finals early. Like, of course, you're headed off to do what you're here to do, no problem. And so that was good.
So, I mean, that move to a brand new city, I mean, a lot of young artists that do that now, I mean, that's terrifying. It's the first time, one, leaving their campus that they've been accustomed to for 4 years and making that huge jump. I mean, it's on them to make a living and to provide for themselves on their art and on their talent. I mean, what was that initial fear?
Well, and I should also say that a couple other crazy things that I posed to my parents after my sophomore year of college. So let me think, 17, I was 19, and I said, I want to spend the summer in New York City. I want to study at NYU, and if I get in, can I go? And they said, sure, we'll make it happen. And let me be clear, my parents, again, they're here, we're not wealthy, but they made it happen. They made it happen, and I'm incredibly grateful that they did that. But I can't imagine now doing this as a parent. They drove me into New York City, and this is before New York City was cleaned up. So, I mean, there were prostitutes and druggies on every corner, and draw me off, and as we were in, I'm pretty sure your hubcaps were all stolen while you moved me in, and then they're like, have a good time, and they left, and sorry kids, my own kids are here, I don't think I would do that with you, but they were like, you're gonna be fine, and I was like, okay, and I was fine. So I had a little experience of being in the city, and that was an amazing experience. Again, it was safe, it was in an academic setting, I had an instant community, and in those kind of things, I'm not a risk taker. If I could go back and do things again, I think I would have found a little better balance of fun and work. Like, I was just always like, task, maybe similar to now too, but anyways.
And we'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
So we have another video question, this time a video from a former LMR Dream Team member. You might recognize her. This video is from Ashley Ashmore, who is now in grad school in San Francisco. So let's hear what Ashley has to ask.
Hello! From beautiful, sunny San Francisco, Ashley Ashmore here. And my question for Professor Balach is all about repertoire and like audition package and like how to construct that. So as a person who's kind of never stayed in one lane in terms of repertoire, I've sung a lot of different like sub like Fach and like a whole bunch of different like types of rep. Is it best as a young artist to showcase that variety in my audition package, or would it be best for me to showcase like a single like specialization in repertoire? Because I don't want them to think I'm confused. I'm just not sure where I'm going yet. So am I confused? Anyways, thank you so much, and congratulations on your 20th episode.
Well, hello, Ashley, because I'm sure you are watching. You're not confused. Well, maybe a little bit. We're all confused. But I think, my philosophy on Fach choice and all of that, in terms of educational setting, not being too prescriptive, because the voice is still changing and evolving. But when you are applying for young artist programs, when you are especially auditioning for the Metropolitan Council auditions, you need to be very specific on what you are representing yourself as. So they don't have time, the adjudicators, the people auditioning you, to figure out who you are. You have to come in very clear. This is the voice type that I'm representing and where you can put me. And if you have it crystal clear, they will put you there. That being said, I'm a firm believer in seeing what opportunities present themselves. And if an opportunity presents itself and you feel you can do it, do it. Even if you think it's not specifically your exact voice category. But don't venture too far out of that. I don't forget, one time I got a contract in the mail for Tulsa Opera. Never even auditioned for Tulsa Opera, but the director from Opera Theater of Cleveland, yes, Opera Theater of Cleveland was working at Tulsa and recommended me for something. And so literally it was like packaged in the mail. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I called, I said, I think you might have made a mistake. They're like, no, Jonathan Pape has recommended you for this. And it was a hard decision because what they had actually offered me, I didn't think fit me, and I didn't think that I could fill the shoes. And that's an important point. It's easy to win the audition. The hard part is then filling that position and making sure you can really do what you've represented yourself as doing. So when you're putting that package together, really, and you have to make this decision, Ashley, at the point where you are, you listen to advice from others, but really listen to yourself, what feels comfortable, where do you see yourself, be specific with it, but then be open-minded to what may come your way. So with the Tulsa thing, I actually turned it down, and then they said, well, what if we put you in this other part? I was like, great, and it worked out. But it's hard to say no, but sometimes you have to.
That's a great point. You never know. I mean, one, who's watching. And you mentioned, too, that once you win that audition, you always got to win the audition and show a great presentation. But then it's fulfilling that role, fulfilling that job, because they're counting on you. That's why they hired you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of money is being invested. I mean, I really think in auditions, the number one thing people are looking for is confidence. Are we going to be able to invest in you that you're going to be able to carry this? That is number one.
Absolutely. So another question, which is a great segue into the next topic I want to ask you about.
Okay.
This comes from Kamaria, who's an undergrad, and she's also a non-music major. She asks, how did your career path lead you to becoming a professor, and what was your initial goal when you chose to become a music major?
So if someone would have told me in 1993 that I'd be living in Oxford, Mississippi and teaching at the University of Mississippi, I would have thought, no, I don't think so. At that point, it was really like, it's going to be Metropolitan Opera or Broadway, but that was also a very narrow perspective. How do I want to put this? The opportunity presented itself for my husband and I to come to Oxford, Mississippi, and it's the best thing that has ever happened to us. Personally and professionally, and when we moved here, it was for his job, teaching trumpet at the university. We were supposed to be here for one semester. That was 19 years ago. And I know that's a lot of people's stories, and I'm going to quote one of my other mentors, sitting here, Cynthia Linton. I've heard Cynthia say that she came here kicking and screaming, and I feel like we have in common. I joke that I came here kicking and screaming a little bit because I lived in these big cities, and I had this misconception about what it was going to be like here, and that misconception was changed, boom, so fast. And the opportunity actually presented itself to teach. I shudder to say I wasn't really seeking it out, and Cynthia created that opportunity, and it was such a gift, and I honestly did not know if I'd be good at it. I thought, but I'll try, and if I'm not, I will quit, timely. I will walk out because I'm not going to do something partway. But I loved it, wow. And the fact that the university really wants us to be performing and producing things and doing things. And Cynthia Linton, really, I consider her one of the pillars of this music department. It would not be what it was without her. And I really often say, what would Cynthia do? Because it takes a very confident person to be open to people's ideas and to lift other people up, and she always has done that. So not that I'm trying to follow in your shoes, Miss Cynthia, but just a fantastic person. So that opportunity presented itself, tried it, I became addicted to it. Is that okay to say? I don't know. And I love my students, and I love this university, and now I also have the privilege of working in the Honors College also, which is just spectacular because the way they do everything over there, it's unbelievable. I walk into our meetings and I look around and I'm like, oh my gosh, the people that are sitting in here, they're spectacular. And just the ideas that are flying around and the students. It's so fun to get out of my music bubble a little bit. In the day, I joke that my Tuesday, Thursday class over there is like my B12 shot. And just going over and being outside of my bubble to hear and learn what other people are thinking and to get their perspectives on the arts and what's going on. And I know my But classes, I lost one student after the first day because I make them go to a lot of things, not just music things, but a lot of things, whether it's movies, whether it's talks, all sorts of things, and he bailed. He was like, this is not for me. But we have a great group. So teaching is just, it's wonderful.
Well, I think we need to get some bracelets made now with the WWCD. What would Cynthia do?
Yes, there we go. What would
To the
Cynthia
music
do?
department.
All right.
And so with teaching, and I mean, one being your love for performing, we've talked about this concept before of the teaching artist. One, what is that, and how does that fit into this 21st century approach to performance in music education?
The reality is now, okay, so when I started years and years ago, there were really two tracks that people were entering in when I was in college. You were either going to be a performer or you were going to be a teacher. Those days are done. I mean, it's really, you need, and in any field, you have to be much more versatile today. People change jobs much more frequently. It's just a different world. And now more than ever, if you need to be a teaching artist, and this is, if you talk with folks in New York City, this is the majority. People are finding this balance. Yes, I'm performing, but I'm teaching a bit here, and there's this melding that's going on. There's also huge entrepreneurial things that are going on that you have to create your opportunity. There are a lot more companies nowadays, but they're smaller. Like back in my time, there were less companies to potentially get in with, but it was cut and dry where you wanted to go and where you wanted to end up. And now you have to sort of piecemeal it a bit more. So the teaching artist, it's important because, again, using the bubble analogy, I can't just be in my bubble of Oxford, Mississippi, and what's going on just here. I need to be preparing my students for wherever they decide to go, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's Maryland, whether it's New York, wherever it may be. And as a teaching artist, you're constantly finding ways to connect and stay in touch with people who are in the field and in academia. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And so how does that play into your teaching style now for your vocal students? I mean, when you're in the studio, for those that want to teach or those that want to perform, how do you reiterate that concept to them?
Maybe I should ask them to answer that question. But I would say that the great thing in the teaching that you do as a studio instructor, you're meeting one-on-one with your student weekly, and we have the great privilege, and the thing that I treasure the most is helping them figure out where they want their path to be. It's not cut and dry for each person. So I love that problem solving and that wheel turning thing of, okay, I've got this music ed person, but they really love theater, talking about you, Faith, and really loves to create things, so she forms this a cappella group, and it's nurturing those things and connecting her with people that are going to help bridge her to the next place. Ava Street, for instance, she's not my private voice student, but she works with the LMR Dream Team. She's, for her honors thesis, now working with LMR, she is executive director for Thacker Jr., and we're going to be producing Thacker Jr., the fourth annual Thacker Jr. as part of Pop-Up Oxford in January. That's with Thacker Mountain Radio Show. And she's taking that on, and that speaks to her because she's in music education, but she also loves to perform. She wants to work on the production skills. Someone like Caitlin Richardson, who really wants to be on the stage performing, but long-term knows she also would like to teach. So it's just really dissecting each person. I actually wake up at night and write notes sometimes, or talking to my phone. My husband's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you think of this?" He's like, "Go to bed." So, but it's just, it's neat, and I always tell them, they're driving the car or the motorcycle, and I'm in the sidecar, right? But that's how you form those and steer them in that way.
So it's funny that you talk about artists and teachers and mentors with Miss Cynthia Linton in the audience tonight. We actually have a special guest who shares your mentor. And so now I would like to invite Miss Mary Donnelly Haskell to the stage to join us tonight.
Congratulations.
Would you
I
like
know,
to
we
sit
have
on
a
this
little-
side? Why don't
No,
you
no,
sit
I'm
here?
good. Are you
just
sure?
sit there, and I'll scooch over here. I'll
Thank
move out of the
you.
hot seat.
This is so fun, getting to share this sofa with you.
Mary has been a huge friend to LMR, and
A fan. I'm a friend and a fan.
thank
so.
you. And I'm really grateful for your mentorship to me too. You know, you've been a great person for me to bounce ideas off, and you know, talking about this idea of staying in tune with what's happening in the real world. We look at Mary here. You were a music major, and your career has gone, you know,
Again, student of Cynthia Linton.
student of Cynthia
Right
Linton,
there.
and not gone the stereotypical path in so many ways.
No, very much. And just again, Reader's Digest version, a music education major, because my parents said, we believe in your dream and we'll believe you'll be on stage, but just in case, you're going to major in music education so that you have a way to pay your bills and
Right.
make a living. And truth be known, that was perfect for me. I loved the breadth of being, you know, all about performing, and I was a vocal scholarship major, so we were doing those arias right and left. But then again, I was very fortunate to have someone who also went, so you're singing with the jazz band, are you? I heard you singing that Donna Summer song the other day for the Miss University pageant or whatever. And so there were all these little different levels that I got to grow the performer that I was. And I think being fortunate enough to hone my craft. You know, we've talked about this before, and I cannot encourage enough when even in this day of everybody just thinking they're going to put their video on YouTube and become, I said, learn your craft.
Totally.
Say it again and then cross stitch it and put it on a pillow. You know, you may have a natural gift, you may have the decent voice or this or that, but you know, if you can't read music or you can't, you know, structure a concert.
Right, because if you
that's a
just jump
difficult
to the fast forward, you're missing the process that later in life when those opportunities present themselves, if you've gone through that process and you've honed those skills, then you're ready when someone says, would you do some teaching, or ready, would you try doing this?
What you just said earlier when you said you know your skill set.
Yeah.
But prepare your skill set and know your skill set, and then, yes, you're right, when the door opens, and of course, I know when we first chatted, gosh, I couldn't believe all those episodes ago, but I think we were having coffee or whatever, and you were sharing just the birth of LMR, and when doors open, you need to have the tools and be prepared to just dance right through it.
Absolutely.
Don't tiptoe, don't be timid, you know, just cha-cha your way through that door.
I like that.
And because
And I like to cha-cha.
honestly, yes, I bet you get. But it's so true because I sat there with you for all of, you know, gosh, we probably an hour and a half blew by, and we were just talking. And then I think we could do, and then I think.
But
and I
that's a
said,
key thing too, don't you think? Surrounding yourself with people who, I don't want to say think like you, because that's not what I mean, but who have this same type of energy and drive, who want to cha-cha and dance together.
Well, and I think the good point is you say about it doesn't necessarily need to be someone who is right in your lane with your genre, that did what you are thinking about doing. It's someone who's sitting with you that believes in possibility, that, you know, again, I've always been a firm believer, and I see Chancellor Mrs. Vitter out there. The fabric of Ole Miss is woven with a really strong threads of mentorship, leadership.
Absolutely.
You know, I see a ton of my Ole Miss Women's Council ladies
Well,
that
mention
I
that,
learned at the
that's-
knee of, you know, these wonderful women that I admire so much, who 18 years ago did the same thing. They had an idea, and they said, what if? And you know, the brain bubbles are
Totally.
just going all over the place.
Well, the Ole Miss
and
Women's
somebody
Council
believes and says, yeah, there's a reason for that.
Is spectacular, and I can say that
Well,
for
we
because I
appreciate
get to
being a
work
mentor
with
for us
students, and
as well.
I mean, it's such an incredible asset.
But don't
to
you
the
think
student
that those
experience.
elements, I mean, yes, the Women's Council is part of our mission statement, obviously, but I really do believe, Nancy Maria, and you, Brady, I'm sure you see it in athletics as well as music. It's just woven into the fabric
Absolutely.
of what it means to be a part of the Ole Miss family.
And with
There's
LMR,
leadership and philanthropy because people understand what it means to give back. If it's that I can sit with you for an hour, or can I sponsor something, whatever that level is. Yeah, it's a powerful thing when it's turned on.
I agree. I agree.
And so both of you, I mean, everything you just mentioned there is
I know we blew through your questions,
top
I'm
of
sorry.
Card.
it's live TV. That's why we're
I
here.
know.
Throw 'em out. You're so busy all the time. I mean, now I mean,
Yeah.
you're down in Atlanta working on a project.
I just got back from Atlanta, yeah.
And also- go
with it's a part of the Netflix series actually that Sam is producing with Dolly Parton. But again, you talk about remembering your bringing out your toolbox and your skill sets. Back in July, I got a phone call that said there's a role in the first movie starring Kathleen Turner. And also a wonderful younger actress, Jennifer Goodwin, who a lot of you might know from a series called Once Upon a Time where she plays Snow White, or lots of feature films. But I played Jennifer's mother in the movie, and I just had such a time of it. And you were talking about when you're ready and what door opens, and I had not been on a casting flat out walk yourself into the casting director and have to read and audition and do all that in easily 15 years, because fortunately, knock wood, I had gotten to a point in my career in LA that I didn't necessarily have to do that those last 5 years I was working. And then I haven't been in front of a camera in probably a decade. So it was a rush to be, I drove my car up, to the studios and went into Paramount and read, and but getting that role and going back, Brady, in regards to Atlanta, 2.5 weeks shooting this movie, it just reminds you of, again, why you love what you do, why you appreciate the opportunity to do it. There are a lot of folks, that want to be a part of the business. And so you just count your blessings every time you get to work.
And you truly prioritize the things that you love. And that brings me to what I want to ask both of you about is finding that work-life balance for people that, both of your mothers, both of your wives, times for your family, and also time to master your craft and to be a part of these big productions and be a part of these big stage productions. What's the secret? Tell me, because I need help. We all need help.
I don't know. Well, do you want to go first?
I will. You alluded to, I loved something you shared earlier, Nancy Maria, about when you were talking, when you and John got this opportunity and you moved here. We have a phrase in our family, I've shared it with you before, that's not odd, it's God. I do believe sometimes that we are meant to be where we are when we are. And for us, for Sam and I in Los Angeles, to do what we wanted to do, we needed to be there, truth be known. And so to raise children and find a balance in life, yes, I made some choices early on that took me away from my first love, which was theater and stage, because that's how I made a living. I traveled all over and took tours while we were young marrieds. But the minute we have children, might not be able to tuck my children into bed because I have to be at a theater 6 nights a week, or even worse, on tour for months at a time. So you find a balance where you can keep your creative energies, you can grow and even create even grander, more fabulous ways of using your gifts, like this right here. And I guess I did, to a certain degree, that same thing in LA. I loved working, loved being able to work on television mostly, while the children were young. And then when they graduated and were off living their own lives, I turned into a recording artist and went back into concert work. So to a certain degree, and you're a lot younger, so you're maybe getting ready to experience this. It's the ebb and flow of life, right? There are seasons that a performer comes in and out of. Literal and figural. Figuratively and literally. Seasons.
I think it's always, I think we're always trying to find a balance. I don't know if I've actually ever found it.
You're doing a great job.
Well, I'm super blessed with a partner in life who we understand one another. We're both performers. We both approach life in the same way. And, you know, there are times when what he wants to work on pushes forward and I'm back, and vice versa. I mean, like I said, we moved here for him. You know, I could have said no, you know, but would that have made any sense? No. And I'm glad I didn't. And the thing is, you can't predict the future. I think you be in the moment. And that's what I really try to do. Whatever I'm doing, that I'm doing it wholeheartedly. And I think the other thing to remember is why you're doing what you're doing. And there have been points in my life where I've chosen to do things because they were going to please other people, and thinking it was going to bring some huge reward in some way, whether that's validation, whether that's a raise, whether that's whatever. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, that's when I'm unhappy. I think that it's looking at what really are your priorities, and that's different for every person. Not every woman is supposed to get married. Not every man is meant to be a father, all those things, you know. And there are different types of careers within this business. You know, there's so many different ways you go. I think you really listen to yourself as to what your priorities are, and that helps you find that balance and keep it in check, because there are times it will get out of control. I mean, where it's like, how in the world did I get myself into this? But to really focus on why you're doing what you're doing. And specifically for me, I start off saying I'm a product of a great public school system. I love the fact that so many of our students are music educators, and they're going to go out and make a difference, because I believe it does make a profound difference within our society. And I love the fact that, like I said, I get to be part of these students' journeys. And so there's no magic way to have the balance, but to just focus on why you're doing what you're doing, and surround yourself, both within your personal life and your professional, with people, not that always tell you yes, but who lift you up. I've learned I cannot be around negative. I can't, because I'm a person who will compensate, and just surround yourself with people who really, you know, push you and also inspire you. Surround yourself with people that are better than you, really. I mean, I do that, you know?
Well, it does. It kind of, as you are building on ideas. I think in one of our talks along the way somewhere, I might have said, you know, you're writing this chapter. Keyword, you're writing this chapter. Someone else isn't writing your chapter for you. You have to write it. And that's really important. And yes, it may, you know, take off and soar and be fabulous and end up with a 20th episode and, you know, and have tons of followers. But everything you learn from, everything. There are different levels of success, I think that you're going to say. And so it doesn't mean that if something takes off, great, but if it doesn't, you learned something from it.
Completely.
And that is the celebration as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And when you surround yourself with people that you said that push you, and you surround yourself with people that are excellent in all endeavors, whether big or small, it makes you have no choice. You have to be excellent with them.
Because it's contagious.
Exactly.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
contagious. That's why the negative thing, and I tell my students all the time, I'm like, if you're struggling in theory, look for the person in that class who is working their tail off. Not who's naturally good at it, but who's working their tail off, and befriend them. And, you know, learn from how they're doing what they're doing, not the person who's, you know, able to just show up last minute and do it. The person who's really focused on it, doing it, and that will push you to do better.
So we have a video question
from
another former member of the Dream Team.
All right.
So Lacey Hyman has sent in a question for us, and it kind of goes into that starting your week with the little things and being excellent, and how to find that balance in life. So let's hear from Lacey.
Hello, LMR viewers, and hey, Ms. Balach. What sort of jobs or volunteer work did you find yourself doing, whether in the arts or not, before landing that big gig or becoming a professor? And what are some of the vital steps that have brought you to this point? And what have you learned from the many new experiences and people you've met through LMR?
Well, it's very sweet, Lacey. Lacey's in Maryland. I think it is important to look at the little things. I like to prioritize both within a day and within the week, and then within the month. So there's sort of, and I'm post-it crazy, and my desktop looks like a mess, but it makes sense to me. But that you're able to check things off as you go, so there's this sense of accomplishment, whether big or small. And time management, I think, is key, and not all of us are naturally good at it, but that you're really, again, it's choices, how you're deciding to spend your time. Truth be told, I'm not the best at stopping and sort of chilling. I'm a work in progress with that, but that has always worked for me, to start small and then let it snowball. Yeah.
Instead of Post-its, mine's a notepad, but the same thing. I make lists, I check them off.
It feels good, doesn't
and
it?
it feels and again, if you are a person who has a lot of balls in the air, and that may be different organizations, it may be different parts of your life, because that's one great thing about Ole Miss, is that yes, like I was a music major, or but you just shared, you go over to the, to the honors college, or Brady, you're over in athletics, or I might be over at the theater department. It's such a fabulous fluidity to this life we have here, and the opportunities we have here. So keeping that fluid sense, if you don't have something to look down, be it a Post-it or a notepad, to go, right, I told so-and-so over in that part of my life that I need to follow up. So,
and I think I would say to young people, taking ownership when you do make mistakes. That's one of my big pet peeves right now. Like if something happens, we all make mistakes. Taking ownership for it, that just is solves a multitude of sins. Just
absolutely.
Boom, done. Yeah.
So along the way, you had LMR on a post-it note, right? One of your ideas?
Well, it wasn't a post-it note, but it. So the birth of this, a summer research grant, an Office of Research, an ORSP research grant allowed me to spend a summer interviewing American composers, and I put together a multimedia lecture recital and took that internationally. And I felt like there was more that needed to come out of it, so created a sabbatical proposal with our former chair, Charlie Gates. And in that document, though, that wasn't a Post-it, spelled all this out. Not prescriptively LMR Live, but the Living Music Institute was in that document. That was 2012, and spelled out what I wanted to do with the Living Music resource. And I was very specific at that point. I didn't want it to be, he said, why don't you make it the Living Voice resource? And I said, that's too narrow. I want it to be music. It needs to be broader. We need more crossover. And that sabbatical allowed me to forge forward on many ways with this, and then it's just taken off like crazy. I mean, when I first started, I really was thinking it was going to be a website where things were going to be more archived, but then again, it wasn't sticking with what had happened from that summer going around and interviewing people. The thing that people were excited about was the fact that they were going to get to interact with these individuals in real time. And when we did our first LMR Live, just sort of as for kicks and giggles. I thought, well, let's just try this thing and see what happens. And we brought Sarah Karina Grafin. We did a concert of her works, and it was whoa. Everyone really responded. We had tons of people watching. There was this huge response. It was okay, we need to do more of this. And then that sort of led to other things. But the LMI, the Living Music Institute, that Amanda Johnson and I co-direct, that launched for the first time this January of this year. And again, but it was thought back in 2012, and then it happened in 2018.
Well, I'm going to add, I think that also that's an example of things happening in their own time. If you had tried to launch this 10 years ago, technology wasn't up with you. So it would have limited the parameters of your creativity. So again, you go back to everything happens when it's supposed to happen, and in a way where it's supposed to happen. Because the support you have here for this amazing idea to be housed right here on this campus.
Totally, because
and then technology just kind of goes, oh yeah, we can do that.
For sure.
I love that.
And we've been in several locations. This is our third location. We started in the Ford Center Studio Theater, then we were at the Powerhouse, and now this is home. We're not moving.
Beautiful.
And Mary,
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
applause. And so, as a young artist, how important is a program like LMR for, the developing artist and for somebody, you mentor so many people, and what's the importance for them, and what have you would have done for both of you to have a program like this when you were in school?
I think that's one of the reasons I got so excited. The very first day you ever were sharing, about, well, what if we did this? I think I may have shared with you that, back in the ancient days, that was the 70s, but to some that seems ancient. But in 1970s, first of all, there was no going online. There was no, I want to, if you're in New York, you could go to Lincoln Center and you could go into the archives and you could sit and watch so-and-so sing something from the original cast of, let's say, Sound of Music. And it's there, and you can watch a little grainy copy of that. But now, for you, I think, to create this accessibility, if I could put it into one word, I think that's what I'd say, the accessibility for someone in California to Florida to Maine to overseas, that they can come on and have read something about Callan Asperian, or they'd seen the documentary done and gone, oh my gosh, and the next thing you know, and maybe they aren't able to make it live, so they bring it up and they're able to watch your archives. It's a great, great tool and an exciting time we live in. That young performers can do that. And we're not limited to going down to the music store and buying the, Italian arias in medium low, German arias.
Right.
That's all we had, and we walked around with these heavy books. And it's amazing that you bring this ease, this facilitation, I think, to so many people across this country. It's exciting.
Well, Mary, we love having you on the show.
Oh, I love it.
As many times.
Pleasure.
For me personally, every time I see you, you bring light and you bring joy in your presence, and we can't thank you enough for being here. Thank you.
I love this lady. Thank you so much. Good to see you. I'm so proud of you. Thank you. All right, see.
Oh, Mary.
Oh, that's important.
Now, it's time for the infamous LMR game time. So today, just like the theme of the show, Balach says.
Balach says.
Hashtag Balach says. So get ready now for LMR game time. So,
Okay.
what's it feel like playing your own game now?
A little strange. Before we started, I said, there aren't going to be like flying monkeys or something, right?
Can't confirm or deny that. So, the game we're playing today is Balach Says. And so, here are the rules.
Okay.
I will read a quote, and it's going to come from a previous episode of LMR.
Okay.
And you have to guess whether or not it's something that you said, Balach Says,
Okay.
or if it was another guest artist from the show.
Okay.
And now, in order for you to guess, we have a handy-dandy paddle. So, if you think it's something that you said,
Okay.
you shall show your face.
Yes?
If it's not, give us a red X.
Got it.
And
I have to guess who it is?
you have to guess.
Okay.
who
Am I
it
allowed to
is.
phone any friends?
But yes, if you want to phone in a friend,
All right.
some audience members here have
All
a few
right.
paddles.
All
so
right.
help, interact, help us out.
Do I
So,
make that face normally? Yeah? Okay.
more than you think.
More than I think. All right.
So, all right, here we go. Without further
right.
ado, quote one. My new mantra, which I hope will stay indefinitely, it is not what you have to do, it is what you get to do.
Me?
Is she right? Yes. And that's from the very first episode
really?
of LMR.
Are you serious?
Yes. Number one.
I try to remind myself that it's not what you have to do, it's what you get to do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's such an important mantra to live by. All right, the next one. And then when you get home, it's like you're trying to save your money, and sometimes you're living in a really small apartment like me, and you don't even have room for a dining room table. So I'm sitting on my floor
Mary
eating a
Lane
burrito
Haskell.
bowl, living my life.
I remember it. Mary Lane
Okay, you gotta let me
Haskell,
finish
first
it. Come
episode
on.
with her. Yep.
Actually,
LMR,
her first episode,
Her
episode 4.
first.
That's right.
episode 4,
Of
her
LMR.
first episode. Yep.
Very good.
Yep. Thank you.
I thought we were going to
Thank you.
stump her.
I expect a prize.
All right, next one. It takes time, it takes commitment. I didn't just wake up one morning and was able to sing a high C.
Callan Asparian?
What do you think?
I'm
So
going to
it
say it's
wasn't
not
you.
me. It's not me.
But
Am I right?
it was me.
Brady!
It was my episode.
I got one wrong.
I think we're either talking about being a
check
10 or a counter tenor.
Yeah. Very good.
I won't bust out the high C right now. Don't ask.
Friday night.
All right, next one. The Ole Miss family is so much about the shepherding of our students and their experience on this campus and this wonderful town of Oxford that they have every opportunity possible, whether you're an accounting major, a pharmacy major, or a music education major. There's so much to be gained through the experience of the chapters that you write in 4 years or 5 years at Ole Miss.
Oh my gosh, it wasn't me. Amanda
I'll give you a hint. She's in the crowd.
Johnson?
It was actually...
Wait.
You got
She's
it?
in the crowd. Who is it? Now I'm in.
She was just here.
Was Mary?
That's right.
Thank you. So Mary Haskell.
Mary Donnelly Haskell. Yes, that was episode 11.
Gosh, all right.
What you
that
just-
was a great quote.
And you could hear her love when she was just talking about it here,
Totally.
her love for Ole Miss. And
Totally.
You just feel it enraptured in her.
Yep.
Next one. I think that the more we can talk about the music in actual, real terms, as far as real circumstances and real people in real life, the more we can connect with an audience.
Wasn't me. It was me?
It was not you.
No, it was not me. Y'all aren't participating. That one was Amanda Johnson.
It was not.
Oh my gosh, I'm doing it. I'm so bad. I'm having a
was.
flashback to the Lippa game where I was so bad. Having a flashback. Okay, no, wait. It wasn't Amanda. Sounds like you, Amanda, doesn't it?
This guest is also here.
Bruce? No.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Bryce Walden.
Price!
Yes. Okay.
My
Next
love
one.
of my guests is not shining through.
And that was episode 15.
15.
15.
It's funny how I remember one clearer than I remember 15.
Okay, the next one. I think one of the greatest things about what we do is the fact that we have a live audience and that there can be this communication back and forth. There's nothing like the energy from your house.
That was me.
That's right.
Yay!
Yeah. And now, the last one.
Okay.
Well, it isn't more fun when there are flubs and I don't know. It's a little more fun, right? Amanda's laughing. Check her out. She thinks it's a hoot and a holler.
What? That was me?
It was you.
What did I say? I don't even understand that.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't it more fun? I think you were laughing at Amanda.
I was laughing at, okay, I take your word for it. I don't remember saying that, but I will take your word for it.
We'll take it.
Very cute. Thank you for
Yeah.
creating this team. Very cute.
And now all music majors here in the department, you have to keep these paddles and take them every day through the hallways and when you pass by her door. All right. Game time is over.
Yes?
Back to some questions. We have a couple more video questions we want to show you, and this kind of goes back to the life and work balance that everybody tries so hard to accomplish. And this comes from Gabby Hunter and also from John Michael.
I know that you're a teacher in the Honors College, a teacher for the music department, and you do everything that you do for LMR, and a woman who is a mother of 3. And I just wanted to know how you do all of it, how you manage it, and look as well as you do.
Miss Balach, how do you balance your personal life with your professional life?
Quick, precise, and to the point.
Well, I just, again, I'll say surrounding yourself with people who keep you in check. I didn't put it that way also, but that also keep you in check. And I'm daily trying to find balance. Some of my YMCA ladies are here, and they help keep me in balance on Monday and Wednesday mornings. I think it's also finding things outside of your immediate work sphere to help you find that balance. Yeah, let's say that.
Awesome. And now Faith asks, you're known around the building for being a ray of sunshine and always being ready to go, and go a little bit more. Was there a time in your life where you hit a low? And if so, how did you come back from that? What's your advice for finding yourself when you feel like you've lost your sight?
Yeah, definitely. I've had moments been low, for sure. Yeah, I think everyone does. I think that accepting how you feel, I'm no expert, but accepting how you feel is really important, and listening to your body. I think also realizing the type of person that you are. For a long time, I struggled with, I move too fast, or I don't do this enough, or I'm too, and it's like, wait a minute, we all have different tempi. Like whenever I'm in New York City, I feel like I'm in my tempo. Do you remember some of you, I said that when we were in New York in the spring, I was like, I feel like I'm in my tempo. And when I'm here and people tease me a little bit about how fast I walk or how hard I walk, I love it in the sense I've now accepted the fact that's just my tempo. And that's just one example. I think really knowing that it's okay if you move a little faster or you move a little slower, or accepting who you are. And in this field, being okay, learning how to be okay with no and failure. And I think talking earlier today, we're in a field where there's so much rejection all the time. And for a lot of people, that's the deal breaker for this field, because it doesn't mean they're not strong. It doesn't mean, and it just means it wasn't right for you. And that's another example of just realizing this isn't who I am, and that's okay. But there's a lot of no, and there's a lot of uncertainty, even when you're a teaching artist. Because when you're creating things, and especially if you're doing something entrepreneurial or innovative, if people haven't done it before, the first reaction often is, well, no one's done it before, and there's probably a reason why. So it's learning to navigate through that. Did I answer that for you, Faith? Okay.
Awesome. So we have another video question. This is from Terrell, who is also an alumni of Ole Miss from the choral department. And this goes to a little bit on the teaching side. So now we'll hear from Terrell and his question.
What suggestions do you have for teaching high school age singers how to sing with beautiful phrasing and emotion?
I think the first thing is not that Terrell would do this, but not spoon feeding. That you are making them part of the creative process and having high expectations. I think sometimes in the academic world, it becomes about deadlines, and we got to learn this fast, we got to do this, as opposed to really immersing within it. I think also really teaching the terminology, dissecting the text, making it a complex experience, that they understand why they're doing what they're doing. And that may seem like a contradiction for phrasing and artistry, but it actually empowers you to be more artistic. Because I think there's a misconception that it just happens. Sometimes it does. But I tell to my students all the time, you have to put the time in to then be artistic in the moment.
Awesome. So what's next with LMR? What are the next steps to take this program to where it can be?
So great things are ahead, and I think that one of those is having you on board. One of those are some of the things happening this year. For instance, we have a graduate assistant who's assigned to the Living Music Resource. My dream, do I share my dream? Do I put it out in the universe? I'll put it out. I've shared it with some people like Charlotte. I'll just put it out. That my dream is that LMR is its own self-sustained entity. That is really this hub where different departments and the community and the world intersect. And we are truly the portal for a 21st century approach to music. And right now, you may ask the average person what Ole Miss is known for, and they might not say music. I give myself a 5-year deadline, not myself, us, a 5-year deadline. I want people, when they hear Ole Miss, they're like, music and performing arts. Of course, they'll still say all the other things that are spectacular, But I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to get to work with the people I get to work with. I'm so grateful for the community that we get to be invested with and partner with in so many ways. And why shouldn't Oxford, Mississippi, the University of Mississippi, be the place that's known for this experience? There's no better place, right? Right?
Absolutely.
So, sit.
Well, I am thrilled to now be on board with you, and I know with us together that, I mean, literally sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit.
For this program.
Yeah.
Everybody here knows it from episode 1 to episode 20.
Aye.
And with that, I think it's call for occasion for a toast. So, while everybody's coming on stage that would like to toast with us for the 20th episode of
Miss
LMR.
Suzette, will you please come up? I'm going to help Miss Suzette
Everybody
up.
coming?
I want you to come on up.
While our friends make it to the stage, I do want to thank a few people first. Thank you to the Ole Miss Music Department for, one, just having us create this program, having Nancy Maria be a part of this, and for one, letting us use this fantastic facility. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Sarah Isom Center for your partnership. And later this Friday in a concert featuring Nancy Maria Balach. I cannot wait to hear your beautiful
And
voice.
you.
And me.
And
I'll be
11
here too.
singers from our department, and John Schuslin and Amanda Johnson and Mary Seal Meager.
That's right. And thank you to the LMR Dream Team, the student-led workers that they produced this show tonight. Give a hand for them real quick. And thank you, the guests, the viewers, for watching LMR Live. So now as we pass out our glasses to toast.
And we're calling this drink L'Armoire.
LMR.
For LMR.
So this is to the new era of LMR, 20 episode. Cheers. Cheers, cheers, cheers.
And remember, the music research revolution continues.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.